Hi, welcome to the second episode of Untold Tales with Trisha. Before I move on to introducing you to our guest today, I hope you guys have watched the last episode where we discussed with Deep Das Gupta how a cricketer turns into a commentator. Today, we will actually talk about a sports person who's almost synonymous to the sport in itself in India. Well, he announced his retirement last year. And then he came out of retirement, won the tournament in Sydney. Who am I talking about? Well, the sport I'm talking about is squash. So, who I'm talking about is Saurav Ghosal. I've always wondered, why do players retire? What goes on in their mind when they decide to retire? And then what exactly happens when they decide to come out of retirement? Do they look at the sport in a completely different way? For all the answers, let's deep dive into the mental state of players in and around the tournaments, the retirements, the Olympics coming up, where squash will be there for the first time. Let's deep dive and have a chat with the Ghoshals, Trisha Ghoshal and Saurav Ghoshal. Hello and welcome to a very special podcast with someone whom I have interviewed now for quite a few times, but as I like calling it, Ghoshal interviewing Ghoshal. But Saurav, obviously, welcome back, not to Revsportz alone, but to the squash circuit. You have started off with Sydney. How was the whole experience? And obviously, I have to touch on this. How is the body reacting to the whole tournament part again?
I think it was great to be back. Just playing matches again on the PSA World Tour. It was just it just gives you a rush, which I can't replicate with anything else. Obviously, I've been training for a while now, and that's been good, and I genuinely enjoy training. But playing matches is a different beast altogether, and obviously there was some kind of apprehensions in your mind, whether, I've not played a match for almost a year now, so is it going to be any different? Am I going to be able to kind of produce what I've been producing in practice? So all those things. But I think it was really nice. Where I played in Sydney, it was, it was really warm, so I kind of had to adapt, which I was very happy about, because I think I probably wouldn't have done the adaptation as well as what I did now, even like a year back. So I think that was something that I really took from that, a really big positive. And just seeing, all the people at the club watching it, and a lot of people came up to me and said that they really enjoyed watching me play and I entertained them. I think that was very, very satisfying. So I think that was really good. Second part of your question, I mean, look, it's not about matches really. It's about training, everything. It's a constant process to manage the body. I know that I have to do everything I can. There is going to be a few ups and downs. We are working with what we have right now and trying to juice out as much as we possibly can for this period of time, and hopefully that I'll be able to do it for long enough to achieve what I want to achieve.
Well, before I take you a little forward, I'll take you a little back. So, what was the real reason you retired?
I think it was, a combination of me wanting to preserve my body and my mind, because I still wanted to play for India. I think I made that pretty kind of apparent and clear when I did step back from the PSA World Tour last April.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of like preserve that and protect it as much as I could, so that I had enough in the bank for when it really mattered. And in this case, obviously, we're talking about things like the Asian Games, playing for India, the World Teams, World Cup, things like that, and obviously the epitome, the Olympics, if I can get there. So that was basically the thought process. I felt like I had a lot of miles in my legs, a lot of battles in my mind, and it comes to a point where you're kind of in this conveyor belt almost, of playing one tournament, training, going to play another tournament, and you can't, even if you do want to, it becomes very difficult to kind of take a step back, and there's always a thing about protecting points so that your ranking is there and all of those things. So I kind of wanted to kind of get away from that and, focus my energies both mentally and physically in terms of the training, to produce my very best for the few weeks in the year that I felt were really important to me and were very close to my heart. And yeah, that was pretty much the thought process.
But during Asian Games, obviously, the match where you lost, it was pretty heartbreaking for you. And any loss is heartbreaking, but um, it was almost that moment where, if you remember, we had a chat about this and we were speaking about, the breaking down part came from you because it was happening over and over again, the losses, the recurring losses. Did that also play a part, sort of, on calling that retirement, that mentally you did not want to maybe take the pressure of that many tournament and going through that many, the ups and downs and all that, and you wanted to choose those tournaments?
So I think obviously the Asian Games final loss is tough.
Yeah.
There's no circling around that. It is tough, but I don't think that really, or at least I would like to think that I'm strong enough not to make a decision of this magnitude based on that one match. I think I've played for long enough to have a little bit more perspective.
Right.
Obviously, straight off the bat of that loss, it's raw.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things happening, and I feel like if I had to make a decision based on that, it would have been straight after, right? So I don't think it was that. I think in some ways it was. It's not so much the losses, I feel, obviously, people, when they watch us play, they would just watch what we are doing
Yeah.
in that instant,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot that goes on in the background. There's a lot that goes on just before you go on.
Right.
There is, at that top level, it's almost like, even if it's a first round, it's like you're preparing for battle every time.
Absolutely.
Right? And I felt like at that point in time when I did decide, and obviously I announced it in April, but I kind of knew like in end February that both my body and my mind were not kind of excited enough to do this week in, week out.
Right.
And I've been on the PSA tour for more than 20 years. I've played squash since I was 8, so that's like 30 years now. And I've, for the most part, genuinely enjoyed my time. And I didn't want it to be that the last phase of my career that I didn't enjoy it anymore. I felt like that was almost an insult to everything that this game has given me.
Absolutely.
And I didn't want to do that. And it's funny that you asked me this as well, because I was having a discussion with my father yesterday, and I think something came up, and an LA 28 came up. And he actually mentioned it. He's like, 1 year back, you weren't so excited about this, but now you are. Like, what's changed?
Yeah.
And I was like, to be honest, I don't know. Maybe I just needed some time to get out, just do things where I didn't have to kind of think about a million other things about the game, and kind of almost reevaluate where I'm at, and almost have like different goals and aspirations as to what I want to do. So I think maybe that's kind of given me the impetus. I also kind of sat down with myself and realized, right, today, like when I stopped, right,
Yeah.
I said that, okay, I want to play LA 28, but again, being an Olympian is a big honor and a privilege, right? So I'm not, discounting that one bit. But do I want to go through the next 3.5 years trying to be just an Olympian, or do I want to go through the next 3.5 years trying to be an Olympic gold medalist? And at that point in time, I kind of knew deep down that, let's say the Olympics was today.
Yeah.
Realistically, I mean, of course, I can pull off 1 week where everything is,
Just working for
just
you.
working.
Yeah.
But on the balance of things, I'm not a realistic favorite or shot going into
True.
the Olympics winning it, because
Yeah.
I'm not top 3 in the world. That's the fact. I feel like I kind of needed some time away to kind of get away and stop thinking about it, so that when I came back to starting watching to begin with, I had a fresh perspective as to how I wanted to play, what identity that I needed to kind of strengthen of myself, so that I could, have a realistic shot in 3.5 years' time. And I think that's what's been the driving force in terms of the training. Like, we are trying to, it's not about how quickly can we come back and get back up the rankings, because I'm starting from the back again.
Absolutely.
Sydney is a baby step. It's great that I won it, but factors. It's a small tournament.
Yeah.
It's not the biggest tournament in the world. So, but it's a good start. That's great. But there's a lot more to do. But for us now, it's more about how can I elevate my level to a point where I go in to playing the world number one or the world number two. And yes, like when I stopped, I would go in and I had a realistic shot to beat them on
Right.
a day, right? But I didn't beat them enough. And I didn't back it up. Like, let's say I beat X, next day I've not beaten Y, and hence I've not, made semis and finals of like the biggest tournaments in the world. So the idea was to raise the level, or at least attempt to raise the level to a stage where I go into every tournament with a realistic shot to win it. And that is a process which I felt like I needed to start now, so that I would give myself a realistic opportunity to be able to do it. Hopefully, if everything falls in place and my body responds and everything, in 3.5 years' time.
But when you were saying this, you kind of needed to take a break, or it's good that actually you took a break. So, do you think that because of this longish career, you have been doing this day in and day out for 20 years, maybe you didn't take a lot of time and question yourself on the tournament level? What happens generally, sort of, I feel, is once the tournament is over, you talk about what you did in the tournament or not. But do you think this introspection, this somewhere gets lost because you're doing it day in and day out for 20 years? And maybe that's why you needed the distance mentally, that fatigue?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not even a question of 20 years. I mean, 20 years obviously builds up.
Yeah.
But the fact is that, in the kind of sport we play, we are on the road for most of the year. We are playing tournaments pretty much every month. You just don't find the time.
Yeah.
Right? You play a tournament and then you have another tournament in 3 weeks and you're, okay, you did this in this tournament and now you're focusing on what you're going to do in the next tournament, how you're going to play this player in that draw, X, Y, Z. Now I had like, 6 months almost where the first part I didn't like bother. I just kind of let go. I said, okay, I need to stop thinking about this.
Yeah.
And then I started looking at it and saying that, okay, this is what I can do. This is what I can't do. How am I going to leverage what I can do to be the best I can be? And hopefully that will be the best, to beat the best, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could have done that if I didn't get away. So, sometimes, in your mind, because I'm starting from right back, so now I'm like scrambling to get into like tournaments and things like that. Sometimes I think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have taken my name out, just kept it. I could have had a pegged ranking. But, then at the back of my mind, subconsciously, I would always have it that, okay, I am going to come back, and I wouldn't have that freedom in my mind saying that, if I don't want to, I don't come back.
I didn't come back.
Right? Whereas now I am coming back because I want to.
Right.
Like there is an intrinsic motivation to do it. It's not, of course, LA is huge. Asian Games next year is huge. And these are, extrinsic motivations. But at the very core, I want to do this for myself because I enjoy the challenge of doing it. And, extending from that, I want to do it for India and for squash in general in India. But I want to, at the very core, I want to do it for myself. I want to do this. Whether everything falls in place or not, that is immaterial. 4 years down the line, I'm still going to look back thinking that, I did this and this was a great ride and I did everything I could and this was the best use of my time for the last 4 years. That is where I want to end up. And I really, really hope that, for my sake, obviously, and for everyone, that it turns out to be a golden one. So, yeah.
Absolutely. But do you think that now onwards, every tournament, is there an extra pressure that if things don't work out for you, you're probably questioning your, coming back, or can I do it? Am I pushing myself unnecessarily?
No, I think if the motivations were purely extrinsic, then I think that would be the case. I think there are two parts of this. I think one is because I really want to do it. So, it's not like I'm waking up every day thinking, oh man, I need to like warm up and, go to train or, go to a tournament. It's not like I'm dragging my feet on that. And then the second part is the whole idea is about raising my level. And the level over a period of time. It's not one day, right? You could have one bad day and it can all fall apart. But if your level is high enough, then 95% of the days you're going to produce what you can produce, right? So I think I would like to think that I'm mature enough now after all these years to understand what my level is.
Right.
I think if I was 21, if I lost a match, I would probably like sit down and think, oh, my level is absolutely useless, right?
Right.
Even though my level might be higher, right? But today, like, if I know that, in practice or whatever, right, my level is here, and if I produced here, then yeah, I mean, obviously I've not done things right to produce it over here, but I know that I have the ability to produce it here, and I'm doing it day in and day out. So it's just a question of fine tuning it so that I can produce it there. So I
So
think that's it.
forgiving yourself becomes easier when you're probably in the advanced stages. You've
Yeah,
played for
I
a
think
number of
so.
years.
I think so. I think you just have more perspective, and I think something James Willstrop told me. Obviously he's part of my team, and
Yeah.
he's helped me a lot, and he's one of the people I spoke to before deciding whether I'm going to do this again or not. And he was like, "Look, you've done this for so long, and you've done it well. You can be really proud of everything that you've done. And if you really want to do this because you want to enjoy it. Of course, you want to win. If you don't want to win, then why are you killing yourself
Yeah.
every day, right? You want to win, but whilst you want to win, enjoy it as much as you can, and almost think about it like you have this finite amount of time, and you want to make the best use of it. Like, there is no pressure here. Like, whatever you've done is always going to be there. That's not going away,
Yeah.
right? So what is the alternative? You stop right now. So whatever you've done is already there. So that's there. You don't stop right now, and you go ahead and you enjoy it. And worst case scenario, you don't achieve anything else, but what you've done is already there anyways. So
True.
at least in this case, you're trying, right? You have the opportunity, you have the chance, right? And he said, I would do it if I could, but I just don't have the motivation like you have, the intrinsic motivation to get up every morning and train. That's the difference, right? So I think that kind of really gave me like a lot of clarity in terms of how I wanted to approach this, and someone else as well. Like, when I decided that I was going to stop, I spoke to Abhinav Bindra quite a bit, and he said, I mean, I joke with him about this, but he basically keeps saying that his favorite Olympic cycle is 2016.
Okay.
Where he actually came fourth. He didn't win the gold. I'm like, yeah, that's because you won the gold in Beijing, so you can say that. No, he said no, but the reason is that I knew 4 years out that was going to be my last, right?
Right.
And I went in every day into training thinking like, I have a certain number of shots left in me, and I'm going to make the best shots I can, and I'm going to enjoy every single shot, because after a particular point in time, I have no more shots left, right? So I think that also kind of like, like made me feel like, oh, you know what? Maybe, it's like I'm counting it down.
Very interesting because Rafael Nadal, in his autobiography, Rafa, has actually said that he approaches, because he obviously had a lot of physical issues and
Yeah.
all that. He said, I have always approached every single serve
Yeah.
as this is the last ball I'm going to play.
Yeah.
So that's how I run.
Yeah, and like, because I love the game so much, I genuinely love playing, right? So for me to think that this could be my last match, or this could be whatever. Before, like, it could feel like I have this pressure that to make it really good, but now it's almost like like, if like, I love ice cream, I
Yeah.
love dessert. So like, if it's the last spoon left,
Yeah.
like, I'm going to like enjoy this last spoon as best I can,
best as you
because
can.
it's done after this, right? So I think in that sense, I feel like, at least as of now, I'm in a very healthy kind of mental framework, and I want to do everything I can to stay in that, because I feel like I'm genuinely enjoying it. It's great. Of course, I would love to trade my 38-year-old body for a 21-year-old one. And have all the training that I've done
Yeah.
in it. So I have the miles in it. But it is what it is. I have to kind of manage it as best I can. And I'm trying to put the best people around me to be able to do that. And like I said, I'm trying to control what I can control, and hopefully it'll work.
Last 2-3 questions. One, of course, is that what exactly do you think now from here on to the Olympics 2028? And initial stop, of course, is Asian Games. Where do you see yourself in the squash landscape right now? And how do you intend to, get better? Not only I'm saying point wise, of course, that will come with the tournaments. But where do you think, because a lot of people now have taken squash, and obviously with the Olympics coming in, squash has become more popular that way. So where do you see yourself in the landscape right now, and what is the plan ahead?
So I think personally for me, I think it's all about raising my level. right? And that's what we're doing even through these tournaments. We're very mindful of not getting stuck in that rut again of just focusing on just the tournaments. Of course, we need to play because we need the ranking so that we get selected. Because otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's but we are trying to like schedule it as best we can so that of course we can protect the body, and also we give ourselves enough time to actually put the work in, whether it be on court or off court, to genuinely progress. Incrementally it might be, but progress has to be there.
Yeah.
We can't kind of like stagnate at a particular level, right? So that is one piece. I think in terms of the landscape kind of off the court a little bit, I feel like obviously squash being in the Olympics is a big boost for us as a game. It would be brilliant if we can get into 32 as well. I think that kind of cements us in the Olympics with the third one hopefully coming, and then you're a permanent sport. But I think, for me, I'm a big believer that we have a lot of talent, not just in squash, but in sport in general. Like, we don't tap even like 5% of it in India. There's no reason why we shouldn't be producing medalists in pretty much every sport there is in the Olympics. But like we were discussing, on the panel, we don't have systems in place, right? We don't have systems to leverage that talent, to find that talent and give them what they need to truly progress, right? So I want to I know that I can't do it individually. Like I can't be at one place now and another place at the same time. So I want to try and give my wisdom and kind of get people who I've worked with to share their knowledge with more coaches around India, so that they can have their touch points with the kids and give them that knowledge. And because I know, I went to Malcolm Wilstrop when I was 18, and I became the professional player I am because I went to him. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. And I know that if I went at 13, I would be better, right? But my idea is to be able to give that knowledge to kids in India when they're like 9, 10 years old, so that they don't have to go out. They might have to go out at a later stage, when they're, like 18, 19, 20, because they need to kind of push through and play with different players and have, the best coaches in the world, which we don't have right now. But at least at like 8, 9, 10, they need to have recognition of what makes a really, really skillful player. And today, 99% of the people don't know. 1% know it subconsciously, and that's just innate. And that is the talent, right? That is the talent to be able to do things on a squash court, where you are outmaneuvering people. And how do you do that, right? But if you can give kids at 8, 9, 10 recognition of that, then by the time they're 16, 17, they will be pretty good at it, right? And just to put it in perspective, I had that recognition innately in some ways, and that's why I kind of got to where I got to in my junior career. But consciously, I only realized that when I went to Malcolm at 18, right? So if I had known that consciously when I was 13, I would have mastered it a lot more, which is what someone like a James Wilstrop had since he was 4 years old. Right? So I keep joking with James. I'm like, James, you had a 14-year head start on me, man. So I think that's basically what I want to do in my own small way. Of course, there are other stakeholders in the sport. There are private, sporting foundations now who are doing a lot of good work in sport in general. Squash has kind of gone into that kind of landscape because we're in the Olympics now. The federation has to do its bit. So hopefully everyone will kind of pull together in the same direction. Because if we do, and I'm not talking just about squash, I think sport in general, there is no reason why we can't be a world powerhouse.
One last question. So in between squash and training and all that, what do you do to keep your mental health, of course, going, and the other just for entertainment?
I think there are a couple of things that I do. I mean, broad categories. One is, I've kind of, over the year that I was out, I spent a lot of time with family, and did a lot of things that I didn't find the time to do when I was playing.
For example?
Just sitting at home to begin with, just sitting at home with my wife and just having a conversation, it could be something very simple. And I've tried to be very mindful that, yes, of course, now, I'm going to, training, and that's taking a chunk of my time in the day, but I still try, it doesn't happen every day, but I still try and find the time to do simple things like that, right? So that is one piece, and I want to keep that, because I think that stimulates me really well. And then there are a few other things more on like the entrepreneurial side that I'm kind of trying to do related to sport, which also stimulates my mind quite in a quite a healthy manner. And I want to keep that going as well. I know that when I used to play squash, but when I not squash, but when I used to play before I stopped, I always had this feeling that I don't want to like do this because it's going to distract me from doing that.
Yeah.
And then, but now I feel like to keep my mind fresh and almost like now when I go on to train, I'm like, yeah, I really want to train because I've
Yeah.
done this now and I
Yeah.
really want to train. So I want to keep that going as well. Of course, not overburden myself because then it's going to be difficult, but just to keep a nice balance on those two facets as well.
Thank you so much, Saurav, for speaking with us. And of course, in the days to come, in the times to come, we'll bother you again.
I know, I'm surprised you're not sick of me already.
No, we aren't. And we are not going to get sick of you. And the viewers are not going to get sick of you either. Keep joining us and keep following Revsportz. Thank you.